Wherever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you.
Good morning and welcome to our virtual broadcast here at First Unitarian Church of Toledo. As I fix my mic, I'll let you know a couple of announcements. We have our flower sale going on, getting ready for Easter. If you receive our FYI, you'll see this order form available. You can also reach out to the church office or just leave a comment if you're interested. We'll be selling tulips, daffodils, lilies, hydrangea, and hyacinths. Something to brighten up your spring season while we're away. We also have the world's finest chocolate bars available. So if you'd like some chocolates with your flowers, again, contact our church office or leave a comment below and we'll get in touch. Caring Circle meetings will be by Zoom this Wednesday, February 24th, and Saturday, the 27th. We invite those who are currently in the Chalice Circle and those who are interested in joining, Caring Circle. Contact Reverend Tim for more details. If you'd like to stay involved in other ways this week, we still have our usual multi-faith meditations, our Zoom music meetings, and our BIPOC virtual gatherings. Again, those details are in your FYI. Leave a comment below if you'd like to make sure you get that.
Welcome. Now we'll start the service proper with Mickey giving our opening words.
Yes. This is a Purim call to worship by Sharon Wiley. For millennia, people have gathered together to hear stories, to root for the underdog, to jeer the evil and the unkind. We see in our stories mirrors to our own lives, where we hope good things will happen to good people and that evil will be vanquished. This morning, we gather for story, for cheering and jeering, for hope and for justice. May this ancient story shed new light on our own lives, and may we know ourselves connected to millions of listeners who have come before us and millions of listeners who will come after.
And I have our words for chalice lighting as Mickey makes her way to the chalice. These are words from Barack Obama. Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. And now, if you'll join me in reciting the covenant of this congregation, which is not a declaration of beliefs, but a statement of commonality, we say, love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now we have our congregational singing. This morning's hymn from our gray hymnal is number 288, All Are Architects, with words by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow and music by Thomas Benjamin.
All are architects of fate, working in these walls of time, some with massive deeds and great, some with ornaments of rhyme.
now via video, we have our morning story presented by our interim religious educator, Soroya King. This story is written by Gail Forsyth Vale, adapted for us, titled Wake Up to Injustice.
Good morning. Our story today is called Wake Up to Injustice. It's written by Gail Forsyth Vale, who is a credentialed religious educator in the UUA. This story was created collaboratively by several other religious educators, and it was read at the 1966 Ware Lecture and it was called Don't Sleep Through the Revolution. The guest of honor on that particular day was Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. It was read and delivered at the Unitarian Universalist Association General Assembly in Hollywood, Florida on May 18th, 1966. There was a man named Rip Van Winkle who liked to share stories and was kind to children. But he avoided hard work or anything that he thought unpleasant. One day, as the story goes, he found a nice grassy place on a mountain and he fell fast asleep. But this was not any ordinary nap. Rip Van Winkle slept for over 20 years. But he avoided hard 20 years or anything that he thought unpleasant. One day, as the story goes, as a matter of fact, he found a nice grassy place Winkle missed was the American Revolution. When he went up the mountain, he lived in a British colony. When he came down 20 years later, he lived in a new United States. This is an old and famous story, but what you would be surprised to know is that it was a favorite of Dr. Martin Luther King. It was one he told a lot. As a matter of fact, he told it to a huge crowd of Unitarian Universalists in 1966, over 50 years ago. He talked about the civil rights movement and urged all those who heard him to wake up and not sleep through the big changes that were happening all around. As Black people and their supporters worked to gain equality rights, he asked white people in particular not to be asleep and ignore injustice. He urged people to wake up. In the last few months, a new set of leaders from the people of color communities are sending the same message Dr. King sent over 50 years ago. Wake up. Many of the injustices, much of the unfairness is still here. And there are even some newer injustices. It's time to wake up. I'm going to ask you to deliver this message among every Unitarian Universalist who's sitting to the right or left in front of you, or whom you may encounter. As a group thought, a group community, to wake up. Can you help me right now, at this moment, as a collective, to say wake up to injustice? Wake up to injustice. Wake up to injustice. Wake up to injustice.
Our anthem today will be a slight change. We'll have two Bach inventions played by Dr. Christopher Murphy and Lindsay Welp on saxophone.
And now it's our time for meditation, contemplation, and prayer. Please join me as we reflect on the week past. Weather has been doing much to us all over the nation. I think I read that Florida was the only state without snow. I don't know if that includes Hawaii or not, but weather has been extreme. In Toledo, I think we've weathered the weather fairly well. There's something like a total of 18 or so inches of snow on the ground, but we're a bit more accustomed to it than people in Texas and other parts of the deep South. And we know that there have been disastrous conditions, and we hold those people close to us as we can. And we're amazed at some of the ways that help has been given from unexpected people and unexpected places, ranging from a grocery store that, when it lost power, gave away food and apparently really spurred others into giving back and spreading it forward that way, to politicians who have no direct connection to Texas, for example, raising much money, politicians out of office taking the lead in helping people, just good being done as best they could help. So we salute humanity are trying to help one another. And of course, we remain in the midst of a pandemic. I urge you, when you can, when you're eligible, get vaccinated. And I know that often it's very trying just to be able to get an appointment and get there. Please put in the effort if you can. It's essential that as many of us be vaccinated as we can. And I'm still waiting to be eligible for mine. For our words for meditation, contemplation, and prayer today, I bring short quotations of Dick Gregory, which I adapted, Vernon Jordan, and Oprah Winfrey. Let me read those. From Dick Gregory, a person without knowledge of themselves and their heritage is like a tree without roots. From Vernon Jordan, you are where you are today because you stand on somebody's shoulders. And wherever you are heading, you cannot get there by yourself. If you stand on the shoulders of others, you have a reciprocal responsibility to live your life so that others may stand on your shoulders. It's the quid pro quo of life. We exist temporarily through what we take, but we live forever through what we give. And from Oprah Winfrey, every time you state what you want or believe, you're the first to hear it. It's a message to both you and others about what you think is possible. Don't put a ceiling on yourself. Let's observe 1 minute of silence.
Spirit of life, come to me.
For our reading today, we have words by Mae Jemison. Dr. Mae Jemison is the first African-American female astronaut. She says, "Never be limited by other people's limited imaginations."
The verb spiel is drawn from words meaning play and revel. I bring you the word today because this Thursday evening, the annual Jewish holiday of Purim will begin, ending at Sunset Friday in most places, which is when the Sabbath will begin. One part of celebrating Purim that has come about is the Purim spiel, intended to be a creative and fun way to bring the story of Queen Esther, the Purim narrative as depicted in the biblical book of Esther, to life. A Purim tradition is the Megillah, reading the book of Esther, or the scroll, which is what Megillah means, aloud to the congregation. Purim is a time of joyful celebration, remembering a time when good prevailed over evil, saving the Jews of Persia. So even though the story does have some naturally comedic parts, creative interpreters started to take license with the telling of the story. My copy of the Jewish Study Bible has an introduction to the book of Esther by Professor Adele Berlin, one of that version's editors. The book of Esther, she wrote, is inextricably bound up with the holiday of Purim. The book provides the raison d'etre for Purim. It supplies the story of its origin for the holiday, authorizes its annual observance, and models how it is to be celebrated. Purim, she adds, the only biblical festival not mentioned in the Torah, needed a reason and an authorization. She calls the Esther story a pseudo-historical tale of how the Jews were saved from their arch enemy. It's pseudo-historical because, she states, nothing about the events of the story is realistic, and therefore attempts to read history from it are misguided. The setting of the Persian court in the 4th century BCE is authentic, but the events are fictional. There was no known Jewish queen of Persia. Moreover, the Persian Empire was tolerant of its ethnic minorities and is an unlikely place for an edict to eradicate the Jewish population. That ends her quote. Forget the realism. This is story, mostly comic, and the celebration with its fun came to include as part of the Megillah, the public telling, for children to use noisemakers, sometimes called groggers, so that the name of the villain of the story, Haman, wouldn't be heard. That's the villain of the story, Haman, wouldn't be heard. The kids also put on costumes, sometimes related to the story, other times congregation or culture oriented. There's food, of course. The Hamantaschen, a 3-corner pastry, carries the villain Haman's name. And not for children, there's drinking for Purim. Professor Berlin notes that a Talmud encouragement is to get so drunk that one cannot distinguish between cursed be Haman and blessed be Mordecai. This revelry is close to the same time as the Christians' pre-Lenten Carnival or Mardi Gras and to St. Patrick's Day, with some similar partying. Other things Purim related and more community oriented are to send gifts and especially food to others and to help the poor. The definition of spiel also has a noun form meaning a rapid talk, like in sales pitches. Purim spiels take the play of spiel and have fun with the Megillah, reveling in the telling. They're not fast recitations like a boring spiel. A website of a humanistic congregation in the Chicago area, humanistic Jewish congregation, Kol Hadash, has an entry on Jewish humor. And a piece by the rabbi there, Adam Halom, says that the Purim spiel started out as a joke in the Middle Ages, even though now it has become an important part of the celebration of Purim, including puppet shows and actual plays. But it kept going. And in the US and probably many other places, the Purim spiel followed entertainment practices to be based today on Broadway musicals, pop culture and movies, and other ways of making fun creatively. When I was religion editor at The Blade in 2015, I wrote a story on local Purim spiels. The Reformed Temple Shomer Emunim and the conservative congregation B'nai Israel both were presenting Purim spiels that year. A locally written one, The Sound of Shushan with Rogers and Hammerspiel by Meira and Dina Zucker at B'nai Israel. In the Esther story, the name of King Ahasuerus' fortress is Shushan. And one by a New York Purim spiel writer at Shomer Emunim, that year based on the TV show Glee. This year, B'nai Israel is having a Zoom celebration, and rather than a full Purim spiel, and as far as I know, I should add, for I've seen their leader, Hazan Ivor Lichterman, do an Elvis impersonation at the synagogue's 150th anniversary celebration in 2016, and I wouldn't put it past him to do this in character. Their Purim won't have a fully produced amateur theater Purim spiel production, but he and others in the congregation will tell the Megillah. And the temple is just concluding this morning a family Zoom celebration, including a virtual costume parade, a Megillah reading, and a congregation-led Purim spiel, all somehow in the space of 1 hour. Now, it makes sense to try to tell the Purim story here, to give an abbreviated Megillah, and we don't have a lot of time for that. So my solution is to read you the book of Esther as it's told in the Twible, a 2013 book by Jana Reese, in which she interprets every chapter of the Bible in Twitter form, using no more than 140 characters per Bible chapter. Esther has 10 chapters. Let's call this Jana Reese's Esther Megillah. Overview. Thrilling novel about a fifth column in the Persian court. One of 2 books in Bible, not to mention G, who's off stage with cue cards. 1. Queen Vashti refuses to appear in court swimsuit competition, which deflates the king's supersized ego. She gets a pink slip. Next. 2. Orphaned Jew Esther gets a year of spa treatments and wins beauty pageant to wed the king. He is still a jerk, but it's a fairy tale. 3. Enter villain Haman Hitler, king's second in command, who wants to wipe out all Jews in Persia. Boo, hiss, stomp your feet. 4. Esther's uncle, Mordecai, warns her of the plot to kill Jews and begs her to appeal to the crown, but the king's not taking calls or Skyping. 5. The way to a king's heart. Est plans a special feast. But Haman's building gallows for Jews. So hurry with the girly banquet prep, okay? 6. King give Uncle Mord the royal treatment after learning he once saved the day. Haman seethes with jealousy. Darn the Jews. 7. The feast's a smashing success, and the king grants Est's wish to save the Jews. Villain Haman also being at banquet table? Awkward. 8. Haman is hoisted by his own petards. Mord gets his job. Est gets his house. Jews get excuse to always drink on Purim, a win-win. 9. King can't reverse his own decree to kill Jews, but allows them to defend themselves against attack. A happy bloodbath ensues. Thanks, Est. 10. Anticlimactic chapterlet to say that A, Uncle Mord grew very powerful in the Persian court, and B, don't mess with Jews. Esther ends. With the Twible's reference to Haman as Hitler, you can see that the Jews prevailing against planned genocide still has relevance. From the time of the story about 2,500 years ago to persecution in our time. There are solemn days now for remembering the Holocaust, such as Yom Teruah, a Holocaust Remembrance Day in April, and International Holocaust Remembrance Day that was January 27th. But part of the history of Judaism is using humor to deal with oppression, such as in the Purim celebration. Professor Berlin's introduction to the Book of Esther notes that Haman's false claim about the Jews is a prototype of anti-Semitism, which must have been familiar enough to resonate with the book's original audience. And Berlin says that the book does have a serious side and an important function as a diaspora story, written about and for, and perhaps by, Jews of the diaspora. As such, it promotes Jewish identity, solidarity within the Jewish community, and a strong connection with Jewish tradition. Returning to Rabbi Halom's piece on Jewish humor, he claims some special standing for humor as a humanist. Humanistic Judaism, which is a relative of the humanism many Unitarian Universalists, including me, have, may be, he says, the denomination that finds Jewish humor the funniest. We are not concerned about poking holes in religious authorities, since they are people too. If everything followed a divine plan, as tradition promised, he continued, nothing would be funny. If God meant for you to fall on your tush, what's funny about that? When we are bad, things happen, or when we see bad things happen, we can cry or get angry, or sometimes we can laugh together. Laughing is a way of coping with the difficult things that have happened to us. Laughter is also a way to share the experiences with others, which also makes you feel better. And he refers to humor and the Holocaust. I was surprised to find Jewish humor even in such a terrible period. But when you think about it, humor helped make the prisoners feel part of a group. It made fun of their persecutors, and as with other tragedies, it helped them cope. Writer and public radio host Michael Krosny wrote a book about Jewish humor called Let There Be Laughter. And he includes the joke, all Jewish holidays can be described in 9 words. Those 9 words, they tried to kill us. We won. Let's eat. And he points out that there are only 2 holidays that actually are about others trying to kill all of the Jews, Hanukkah and Purim. Purim became a holiday in essence because the book declared it to be a holiday. In chapter 9, the next to last chapter in the book of Esther, it says, Mordecai recorded these events, and he sent dispatches to all the Jews throughout the provinces of King Ahasuerus, near and far, charging them to observe the 14th and 15th days of Adar, the current month in the Jewish calendar, every year, the same days on which the Jews enjoyed relief from their foes, and the same month which had been transformed for them from one of grief and mourning to one of festive joy. They were to observe them as days of feasting and merrymaking, and as an occasion for sending gifts to one another and presents to the poor. And the text describes the name Purim. For Haman, son of Hamadatha, the Agagite, the foe of all the Jews, had plotted to destroy the Jews and had cast Pur, that is, the lot, with intent to crush and exterminate them. But when Esther came before the king, he commanded, with the promulgation of this decree, let the evil plot which he devised against the Jews recoil on his own head. So they impaled him and his sons on the stake. For that reason, these days were named Purim, after Pur. Professor Berlin states that the book succeeds in putting a serious message in a comic form. For a religion in which there is much suffering in real life up to today and in Scripture, this is comedy with the Jews prevailing. Definitely a holiday for merriment, and I suppose important enough to the people that, though it's called a minor holiday, it is indeed a holiday that is observed by many. We kind of need holidays these days, don't we? Don't just hole up in your house, snack on Hamantaschen, and drink. Though if you're going to observe Purim this year, find stories of your people prevailing against adversity. We can transfer that to hopes of ending COVID-19 and hope that one day in the future, we will see a light side to this pandemic. So be it.
We now come to a time of offering. If you are able, please visit us at uutoledo.org, click on Give, and then click on Online Giving. That resource is also in the YouTube description. And if you'd prefer to look a little towards the paper route, you can reach us at 3205 Glendale here in Toledo, Ohio. If you have any questions or would like to learn more about getting involved with the work we do at First Unitarian, please reach out to us. Our office hours are currently closed, but you can reach us by email. And we'll see you soon.
And now for coming soon. Next week's 10 a.m. Spiritual Adventures Forum is going to be on Norbert Chopik, presented by Joe Moran. And then our 11 a.m. service I've titled Jesus Goes Wild, part of my ongoing series of sermons about Jesus from my humanist's perspective.
Please join us immediately after today's service for our social hour. We apologize if you tried to reach us in the comments. We did have issues again with that on YouTube, but our Zoom meeting code and password are in the YouTube description. We hope to see you after. Grab a little cup of coffee or tea, and we can say hello the way we usually would in our fellowship hall. I have these closing words by Leslie Ahuva Falls. All that we have been, all that we will become. For millennia, people have gathered together to hear stories, to root for the underdog, to jeer the evil and the unkind. We see in our stories mirrors to our own lives, where we hope good things will happen to good people.
You know what?
Yeah,
We're repeating our opening words, and let's repeat them.
that sounds beautiful. Let's meditate on that. Where we hope good things will happen to good people, and that evil will be vanquished. This morning, we gather for story, for cheering and jeering, for hope and for justice. May this ancient story shed new light on our own lives, and may we know ourselves connected to millions of listeners who have come before us and millions of listeners who will come after.
But we do have new words for sending the flame, spoken by Ella Fitzgerald. She said, "Just don't give up what you're trying to do. Where there is love and inspiration, I don't think you can go wrong."